My name's Tina Firefly. I'm with Beautiful Skeletons, and you are listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast.
The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
Well, thanks for joining me. Appreciate your time.
Yes, no, thank you for having us on here. I appreciate you doing this with me this morning.
How are you guys doing? You all right?
Yeah, just chugging along. You know how life is.
Yeah, trugging along. I get it. So I'm going to start this off really quickly and say, how the hell did I not hear about you guys before until I started prepping for this? That song is
Yeah,
Let You're a Narcissist is absolutely killer.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we love playing that live. It's just as fun live as it sounds on the recording. And yeah, actually, we just had a show a couple days ago, and people just like they just love that song. Everyone's jumping and singing it, and it's like a success story for us, right? As a lyricist, I'm always trying to find a way to make the message in the song actually apply to everyone, make
Mhm.
it more universal.
Was it difficult to do that?
It's not difficult for me. That's always been my writing style. For example, like if you listen to somebody like Tori Amos, and she has a beautiful voice, and I love the way that she phrases things, but fuck if
Yes.
I know exactly what she's talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that
And
was the whole thing, right? Because I was a big Tori Amos fan back in like the late 80s, early 90s. And that was the
um,
big thing. Everybody was always trying to figure out what she was talking about on Under the Pink and Little Earthquakes. And that's even the one
exactly.
after that with Boys of Pele, I think. That was so far out there, but there were like whole websites devoted to like what the hell is she saying and who's she talking about?
Yeah, that makes me crazy. I mean, I love her to death, and I've always been a fan. But I remember listening to Choir Girl Hotel, wondering
Hmm.
what the hell half the album was about. So when I write my lyrics, my style is just different. And a lot of lyricists will write lyrics like before they even hear music, sort of like poetry. And I just don't do that. I wait until I hear the music, and then the music speaks to me. I know that sounds cheesy as hell, but it really
No.
does. I don't write before I hear the song, because
So
at the
you get the
moment that I
music,
hear it,
you get the music, and then you have to vibe on it and then figure out what's going to happen.
absolutely. In fact, usually what happens is the guys will jam, because we jam all the time. The guys will jam, and we'll just start jamming on something awesome, funky, chunky, whatever. And I'll start improvising. They'll record it, and then they'll perfect the instrumental portion of it, and then send it to me. And then I write to it. And then when we get together next, we get it right and hammer out all the details. But yeah, I used to write prior to, like, I was like every other lyricist. I had like notebooks and notebooks of random ass phrases and shit that I
Hmm.
thought sounded cool. But then when I hear the music, I'm like, this has nothing to do with whatever message I thought I had. So
Do you
that's
approach the writing with like a topic in mind, like I'm going to say this or this is what I want to get off my chest, or you just it
not at
just
all
really comes to you cold?
correct. Yeah. It just literally comes to me cold. In fact, one of our last releases, Gaffy, Goodbye and Fuck You. I mean, like, I had no idea that when my guitarist was writing that those were his feelings when he wrote it.
Hmm.
And I didn't know. He didn't tell me. But we started playing on that immediately. And then afterwards, he was like nearly in tears. He's like,
Wow.
how the fuck did you know? And I'm like, what are you talking about? How did I know what? It's like totally very random. But that's, I
Weird.
mean, that's
Right.
that's the great thing about being a part of a group of musicians that are like truly connected is somebody starts vibing and the rest of us just kind of fall in place.
Gotcha. So when you're writing, then do you ever find that you're putting too much of yourself into the song? You're too vulnerable?
Sometimes I kind of consider writing to be like, I don't sculpt at all, but if you have a block of wood and then you chip away trying to make an image, that's where I struggle the most. Is like I want to say everything in the world. Like I want to give you a Stephen King novel. I want like
Right.
a trilogy or some crazy amount, but obviously we only got 3.5, 5, 6 minutes maybe. So for me, it's less about putting my feelings out there and more about like Okay, there's just way too much information in this. I need to whittle it down
So
so
you have
it's
to scale
actually
it back.
memorable. Yeah.
Interesting. So I like that you said that you guys, or the band at least, is all writing together. That's a really cool, almost novel idea this time of, in this world we live in, right? Because everybody's sending everything back and forth through Zoom and that sort of thing. Well, not Zoom, but whatever, email. Hey, do
Yeah.
this, do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things. I mean, we prefer to jam and write like in person,
Right. But
but
I
I
think
never
that's the
kill
way
it.
it.
And
I think that turns out to make the songs like a lot more organic and a lot more real. Because I think, and we talk about this a lot on the show, right? Music should ebb and flow, and it shouldn't be perfectly quantized, I don't think. I think it should be a live, breathing thing. Does that make sense? And I think you only
totally.
get that if you do it the old school way, like where you're all in a room and you're like, hey, let's bounce this off each other and let's let
Yeah.
this move and breathe.
Yeah, we have the opposite problem. We have to tell ourselves, no, we are not creating any new songs today. Because we could sit
Great.
down and just jam out for an hour and have written, all of these songs. So we had to stop at some point and we're like, okay, we can't write a million songs at once. Let's focus on these, and then on off
Right.
season we'll finish these other ones. But I mean, we have these massive archives of songs that are pretty much done that we just haven't revisited yet.
That's a good problem to have, right?
It's a great problem. It's a great problem.
Um, what do you guys look like with touring? I know you were out with Yngwie. Are you doing anything else coming up?
Yes, actually, in June we're able to actually announce what we're doing, but I'm excited. It is a band that is more established than us and but crosses over in the same subsection of audiences. Also female fronted metal. And yeah, I can't say much else other than
Oh,
that,
that's
or I'll
fine.
get in trouble. But June 1st, we'll make an announcement and we'll be out and about touring and seeing the US for quite some time. It's like a 4-week run. So we're happy. We're excited
That's
for
great.
that.
When does I know the release or the single was out the 17th, right? What's been the response to it so far? Has it been pretty good?
Yeah, actually pretty good. We kind of like perfected this formula with our last EP. We just kind of figured, okay, these are the things that work. And one of them was, making sure you do a really good music video for one or two of the songs and then leading with that so that you create the interest. Our label, One Whole Death, they are based in Italy. They do things slightly different. Like here, we wouldn't be able to drop a music video for an unreleased single until after the release date. But the rules, they're different everywhere. So what the hell, right? So
Right.
I was happy that we were allowed to do that because the actual EP doesn't drop digitally until the 10th, which isn't that far from now. But
Oh.
you know how it is. You're sitting on like music videos and all these awesome songs, and you're just like, God, I gotta hurry up and wait now.
What was it like touring with Yngwie?
It was intense and awesome all at the same time.
I've had him
There's,
on the show a few times. He's a very intense guy.
oh, you have?
Oh yeah.
He's a good guy. We really didn't talk a whole lot. So it really wasn't until the very last show on that run that Beautiful Skeletons and the other band that was going with us, we got to, meet him and say hi and take a picture and
Hmm.
all that. He really didn't say anything to anyone. I mean, besides like, hi, nice to meet you, that sort of thing.
Right.
And then when he got to me, he like grabbed my hand. The dude is so tall. I
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen me, but I'm like this big, and the guy, he's like his head is like way up there. And I have to crank my neck up.
Right.
I think his shoe size is probably massive too. I All I know is that every time he walked by, I look at his shoe size and go, Jesus, I don't know, what are those like 16s? The dude's super tall. But yeah, he grabbed my hand and he was like, "You have a voice." And that's pretty much the only thing that I really
Great.
got
Because I
to.
mean, in the end, he's a legend, right? It was great you even got a tour like that.
Yes. Yeah, no, I was totally great. I was totally grateful just to be in the same caravan.
Right.
It was an experience. That was literally my first tour. So way to like start
Oh, really?
the yeah.
Wow.
Way to start it out a good way. Yeah, I mean, like, and his crew were all just super nice and
So what were
accommodating.
their fans like then? Because you guys are really decidedly different kind of styles, right? Were their fans pretty appreciative or
Yeah,
receptive?
yeah, I would say they were for the most part. There was a little bit of heckling, I think, from some drunk patrons, but that's nothing, you know.
You got to expect that anywhere, right?
Exactly. At first, I was thinking to myself, like, what? How is that a match? Because yeah, I mean, the styles of music are completely different. But
Yes.
oddly, we were able to sort of cross-pollinate because our demographic at the time of fans who you know hold on to our music was in that category. Males between the age of I think it was like 40 and 65 or something like
Right.
that. That demographic has changed now as we've released more, but surprisingly, that was our audience, and we actually had a great reception from most of
That's
those
great.
shows. Yeah,
That's great. Your first tour with a legend.
I know. I was like, man, can we start out small or what? Yeah,
Right.
no, it was
Now you got to
nerve-wracking.
really do a lot to up that, right?
I know. I feel
Pressure's
like,
on.
and it's funny because they had invited us to potentially join them at the end of last year for like a quick run in Europe, and
Right.
we just couldn't. But you know,
Wow.
maybe one day we can make that happen.
Right.
I don't think it overstates things to say that the Beatles were the greatest gift to entertainment and culture of our time, a secular religion, if you will, with their universal appeal and demonstrable impact on people's lives. I'm Robert Rodriguez, host of Something About the Beatles. With every episode, I speak with historians, musicians, artists, and Beatle witnesses, all in the service of fresh insights into the most joyous cultural entity the world has ever known. I hope you'll join me and listen to Something About the Beatles, now on Evergreen and wherever you get your podcasts.
So, when you guys are writing, are you writing these songs for like how they're gonna come across on stage? Like, hey, this would be a good part for a breakdown or a jump, or are you writing the song and it's just for the song's sake, and then you worry about getting it on stage later?
That's a really good question. I feel like no one asks that. That's a great question. I would say the answer is in between. So the structure of the song, easy peasy, right? And then once we all sort of agree on what that is, it doesn't take very long for me to come up with some lyrics and for them to solidify the song structure. Usually where we sort of have to like re-examine is okay, so where exactly did you guys envision the first verse starting? What's the bridge like, you know? Or I'm sorry, we're not Dream Theater. Can we not have a 2.5 minute intro? That's not going to fly. You know what I mean? So little stuff like that. So we do that sometimes, but mostly for the bridge because we want that bridge to be hooky and catchy and a break from the rest of the song.
Okay, but you're not like thinking about, hey, this is a good spot for a chant, or this is a good spot for a crowd
Fuck no.
thing like that.
Yeah. Not that I care if anybody else does, but that's just like not, nah, that's not the kind of shit we think about when we're writing. It's just about what it sounds like, what it feels like.
Right. All right. So one more, I think, and then I'm out of my questions. But I was curious. You said you had a lot of songs already written and in the can. How do you decide what's going to make the an EP is really short, right? How do you decide what makes it? Was that difficult?
So difficult. So difficult. I'm hoping next year we'll be able to actually afford doing a full-length album. But yeah, that's a hard one because we all get so attached. But thankfully we all have the same sort of a long-term vision where we think, okay, well, you know, that 7.5, 8 minute song is not going to fly for radio if we're thinking about doing the radio campaign, you know, or any of that kind of stuff. So we do kind of keep that thing in mind, but only when we're sorting through which ideas we want to actually flesh out.
So are
Um,
those songs then going to be, for lack of a better word, dead, and you write further, or do those resurface somewhere along the way?
we always come back to them, always. We
Okay.
never let that shit die, ever. Every single one of anything that we've jammed on that we were like, oh, somebody hit record, every single one of those ends up becoming a fully fleshed out song. It's just a matter of whether or not we're going to choose to record it, but it's going to make its way to the set somehow.
Nice. Do any of those ever make it live? Like
All
bonus
the
stuff?
time. Yeah,
Do they?
all the
That's
time.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's excellent. If fans want to find you, how do they get in touch with you guys?
Oh, everywhere. Spotify, Facebook, beautifulskeletons.com has all our social links, all our announcements, our schedule flyer for our next shows, YouTube, obviously. I mean, we're literally on every platform from Apple Music to Google. So finding us should be super easy. And on top of that, our next show will actually be in LA at the Whiskey. We get the pleasure of opening up for the Iron Maidens, and those ladies are very, very
Yeah,
talented.
they've been on the show too. So yeah, they're great.
They are so sweet, which is crazy. Like, I just don't find a whole lot of other frontwomen as friendly sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, it just maybe it's just a local thing. I don't know. I
Right.
feel like some women have to, or some females who are fronting this kind of music feel like they have to overcompensate or go the other way with it and be really skimpy
It's come a
looking and
long
stuff.
way. I mean, obviously, I'm not a female, but I think from what I've seen and who I talk to, and I go to shows all the time, and I'm entrenched in the scene, I think it's gotten way better, right?
Oh, totally. 100%. 100%. But then it's like also my own self, because I am like, I'm the worst when it comes to self-confidence, believe it or not. I'm always second guessing everything.
Right.
And those ladies are like talented and gorgeous and like they have the formula, man. They're good. So I'm simultaneously nervous and excited, but it always helps when they reach out and they're like, hey, I mean, that was really cool.
I think it's interesting that you're on a European label because I do think that female fronted metal is way more popular in Europe than it is in the States.
Bam, you hit that shit on the head. That's exactly what we heard over and over and over again. We didn't plan on shopping ourselves across the seas, but actually we got headhunted by them.
Yeah, it
They
seems like a lot of the really bigger female fronted acts come from Europe and do really well.
100%, yeah. And people still buy, albums, physical albums there, and
Mhm.
EPs, vinyls. Like they actually
Right.
buy a physical CD. We couldn't sell a physical CD here to save a freaking life. Nobody
Yeah.
has a goddamn CD. I'm guilty too. I don't even have a CD player. I think my husband has one
I
in
don't
his
have a
truck.
CD player, but I do have vinyl. I was listening to some vinyl just before we started.
Different. No, we're not
Yes.
selling vinyls just yet, but yeah, I
Right.
mean that's like been a big thing here. Everyone's like, "Well, what's your Spotify link?" And then when we started doing European interviews, they were like, "No, we don't support Spotify now." You
Yeah, that's
know,
cool.
they're huge on that. So, I mean, I'm hoping eventually when we make it over there, we'll get a good section of people over there who
I have no
will
doubt this fits
follow.
in with a lot of the stuff I've heard. Like from Napalm Records, they've got a lot of big female fronted bands, and those probably Napalm, Nuclear Assault. I'm not so sure, but definitely Napalm has a lot of really big female fronted bands, and I could see this fitting in anywhere with them. So that's great.
Thank you for that. I hope so. One day,
And I
maybe.
encourage anybody listening to this, honestly, go check out this single because I was totally caught off guard. I hadn't heard about you guys and went, whoa, how did I not hear about this one?
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you liked it. And I hope everyone does go and checks it out. We've got several other releases coming up. And if you guys happen to be in LA, on the 24th, come see us.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Well,
that.
take care of yourself. Good luck with the record.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Hey, this is Dewey Halpus, host of Peer Pleasure on the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Join me each week as I explore another long-form conversation with one of your favorite musicians, actors, comedians, or creatives. From Chino Moreno of the Deftones, John Gorley of Portugal the Man, to Fat Mike from NoFX and Ian MacKaye from Fugazi and Minor Threat, we go all over the map. From Fall Out Boy to Slayer, Peer Pleasure has it all. Check us out now on Sound Talent Media.